The FDA recently released new information regarding grain-free diets and their association with heart disease in dogs. But did we learn anything new? Let's investigate. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Holmes and welcome to another episode of Pet Doc Sherlock, where we help people solve the mysteries of pets. And I'm sorry it's been a while since I've gotten a video out there. I've been a little bit busy with a new baby boy that we had 4 weeks ago. And technically his due date was today. So life's been a bit hectic and a bit crazy getting ready for him to arrive and then him coming a bit early. So obviously I've had to put these videos on the back burner. But we're back, and today we're talking about some new information the FDA has released regarding grain-free diets and dilated cardiomyopathy, a heart condition in dogs. Now, we released a video a while back on the suspected link between grain-free diets and dilated cardiomyopathy, and I'll put the link to that video in this description. But today we're going to talk about the new information that's come out and see if we really know much more than what we knew before. First, I want to make it very clear that it's not my intent to argue or debate with pet parents out there. It's my job to inform, not tell you what to do or what not to do. People love their pets and they want to do what's best for them, and many of them have very strong opinions about what they do with their pets and why they do that, especially when it comes to food. So my only purpose here is to tell you what it is we know, tell you what it is we're looking at, in order to allow you to make the best decision for you and your pet moving forward. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of stories out there about people with their own pets and what worked for them and what didn't. So again, I'm not here to debate. I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. I'm here to say, hey, this is what we're looking at. This is the information we have. And you can decide what you feel is appropriate for you and your pet. So, the FDA started to really look at grain-free diets and their link to this heart condition in July of last year. Now, it should be said that it's not just grain-free diets, it's what the FDA would call BEG diets: boutique, exotic, and grain-free. The reality is, the vast majority of people from those categories are feeding their dogs grain-free diets. There's not a whole lot of people feeding boutique or exotic diets out there, so the primary focus is on the grain-free foods. They found 320 cases were reported to the FDA of DCM in dogs that was suspiciously linked to grain-free foods. Now, this year, in 2019, from the start of the year to the end of April, there was already over 190 cases, more than half of last year. And if we look at the chart before 2018, there were very, very few reported cases of DCM to the FDA because, again, the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, is looking primarily at the dog food link. Of course, it would make sense that more DCM cases would be reported to the FDA in 2018 and 2019 because that's when the FDA went public and said, hey, we think there's a link between this food, or this type of food rather, and this heart condition. So, of course, there's going to be more reports over time because people are now looking for that link. So just because this graph shows small numbers before and huge numbers now doesn't mean that there wasn't a link before. It just means we're starting to be a little bit more critical of it, and we're starting to, especially as veterinarians, think about when we have a dog come in with a heart condition and our records show that they're on a grain-free food, there could be a link between the two. All that being said, there are over 77 million pets in the United States. So it would make sense that there are far more dogs on grain-free diets than just these 320 and 197 cases that they've seen in the past couple years. So what we can also tell from this information is not every dog who's on a grain-free diet is going to end up with clinical signs of DCM. This next chart shows the different breeds that have been included in these cases that the FDA is looking at. Now, there are a few breeds that DCM is genetically linked, and those include Great Danes, Doberman Pinschers, and Irish Wolfhounds. So typically, those are the breeds that we see this in the most. As you can see from the chart, there's a ton of different breeds that we are seeing this condition in. And some of these breeds, we have practically 0 documented cases of DCM in historical records. The other thing you'll see is that golden retrievers are at the top of this list, and there seems to be a lot of them. We'll come back to golden retrievers in a little bit when we talk about another segment, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind as we move forward. The next graph within this FDA report shows different brands that cases have come from or thought to be linked to. Let me immediately say, I am not, nor will I ever truly brand bash. These brands are out there and they are not trying to harm anyone's pets intentionally whatsoever. And the brands that are towards the top of this list, if we look at Akana and Signature and Taste of the Wild and Blue Buffalo and Earthborn, these brands are some of the most common. They have some of the strongest marketing departments. You've seen commercials for them. You've seen banners for them in various stores. So it would make sense that if grain-free food is somehow linked to this heart condition, the most popular brands that sell grain-free food would have larger numbers associated with them. So this chart is out there, and I want to make sure that people are aware of it, but it's not that the brands at the top of this chart are worse than the brands towards the end, or are worse than brands that aren't included in this chart. That's not true. It's those brands are some of the most popular brands. And if grain-free foods are associated with a heart condition, it would make sense that the most popular grain-free foods would have the greatest number of cases. This next graph I find to be a bit more important, and that's a graph that shows the percentage of DCM cases based off of a certain ingredient. So we see that 91% of the cases reported to the FDA are associated with grain-free diets. Again, remember towards the beginning of the video, I mentioned boutique, exotic, and grain-free. This is why we focus on grain-free. 91% of the cases are linked to grain-free. The other 9% would be part of the boutique or exotics. The other component to look at with this chart is peas and lentils as an ingredient comprise 93% of these diets that these cases have been associated with. So there's something about peas and lentils we think that could be connected to this heart condition. We don't know exactly what that is, but it would make sense in that when you remove other carbohydrate sources, the grains, from a diet, then you need to find a new source of carbohydrates. And peas and lentils have been pretty much the primary ingredient that companies turn to replace carbohydrates in dog food. Okay, so we have new information. We have the brands that are most associated, which again, I don't put a lot of stock into that one. We have the breeds, which shows that there's a lot of breeds being affected, and that makes us think this isn't just genetic, there's something else at play. And then we have the ingredients that are most associated with these cases, or at least thought to be. But what does that mean for me as a veterinarian talking to my clients, or for you as a pet parent? We're not really sure. A lot more tests need to be done, and they're being done currently. So many of the dogs that have sadly passed away from DCM are being autopsied to figure out what may have caused this condition in the first place. There are other studies being done where some of these dogs who have been diagnosed with DCM, they are taking blood samples, urine samples, fecal material. They're analyzing all of that, and then they're adjusting these dogs' diets and adjusting their lifestyle and taking more samples as time moves forward to see what's changing in their blood. Because all of these grain-free diets have already been analyzed. They've looked at protein content, they've looked at fat, they've looked at carbohydrates, they've looked at taurine, they've looked at cysteine, they've looked at all of your essential vitamins and minerals, and none of the grain-free diets are lacking in those. In other words, when you look at the nutritional analysis, they should be just fine for your dog. They compare just the same as the diets that include grain. So it's not a taurine or a cysteine or a mineral issue within the food itself. The reason I mentioned taurine a couple of times is a long time ago we did discover that without proper taurine in a dog's diet, they will develop DCM. So we know that. And that's why all of the food manufacturers ensure that there is an appropriate amount of taurine in the diet. That brings us back to golden retrievers, however. Golden retrievers have been found to be the most sensitive breed to a taurine deficiency. Okay, but we know there's enough taurine in these diets, so where are we going with that? Well, now we're trying to figure out, is there something interfering with the metabolism of taurine? Is there something interfering with the dog's ability to absorb the taurine or use the taurine? Is there something that dogs break the peas and lentils down that could prevent them from then using the taurine, leading to the heart condition? We don't know. That's the summary. We don't know. But they're working towards that. They're trying to figure that out. The other question we have to ask ourselves is, why is there such a recent spike? Why now? Grain-free diets aren't brand new. They've been around for a while. Is it just that it took us this long to figure out what was going on? Or is it something that has to do with the processing of grain-free foods? Like the ingredients, how the ingredients are processed, where the ingredients are coming from, their sources, or how the diet's formulated in general. So is it an industry issue, like a production issue? It's possible, but again, we don't yet know. So that leaves us with, what do we do with this information? And that's up to you. For me, as a pet owner, as a veterinarian, as someone who talks to pet owners every day, I recommend feeding a diet that does contain grain. Let's go way back. Again, there are 77 million pets in the US, and we only have a very small percentage of cases. And so if you're feeding a grain-free diet, your dog is very healthy and you feel very strongly that a grain-free food is working for them and is great for them, then I'm not here to tell you to stop. I'm not here to tell you otherwise. I just want you to know that we are investigating that link. We think there is a link. We don't know why it's happening. And so continue with that knowledge. Know that there is a very, very small risk moving forward. But if that risk makes you nervous, then just pick a diet that does contain grains. And many of those companies that are high on the list of grain-free diets causing heart disease, or that we think cause heart disease, make diets with grains in them. So if you like that company, stick with it. And just pick a diet that does contain a little bit of grain. When people ask me, what companies do I recommend? This is always a hot button issue, and I don't really know why, but the companies that I trust are Purina, Hills Science Diet, Royal Canin, Eukanuba, and Iams. There are people who always laugh at a few of those brands. I'm not really sure why. If you absolutely hate those for some reason, leave me a comment in this video. I'd love to know why, because I'll look into it further. But I'll tell you why I believe in those brands. It's not because they pay me any money. Never gotten a cent from them. It's not because they do anything for me as a vet. They don't. They come and give me information about their veterinary diets, and that's about it. So I like those brands because, one, most of them have been around for a very long time. They've worked out all the kinks. They've gone through issues in the past with excess vitamins or wrong amounts of calcium, whatever it may be. And so they've had a lot of years of experience. But really, more importantly than that, those companies all have a veterinary nutritionist on staff. who looks over every food before it's produced. They make sure that that diet is going to contain the right nutrients for each and every dog that eats it. So those for me are two really, really important things that give me confidence when a pet parent asks me, hey, what kind of food do you recommend? I know that by recommending those, there's been a veterinarian who's looked over that diet and every nutrient that's in it. I can't say that about other companies. And so there's too many brands, too many diets out there for me to know everything about all of them. I have to pick the ones that a veterinary nutritionist has already analyzed for me. Again, it is just my job to give you the information we know, not tell you what's right, not tell you what's wrong, not tell you what to do. If your pet is happy and healthy, that is all I could ask for. So I hope this video has been helpful. I hope it's provided you with the new information. I'm going to be on the lookout for anything else coming from the FDA or any other university looking into this, like UC Davis and Tufts University. They've been big on the front end of the research. So again, I hope this has been helpful. And if you've enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. We've got a lot more content heading your way, so hit subscribe to see what else we're going to come out with. And as always, remember to keep your pets happy and healthy.